Oh my god, buddy, look at us, buddy.
Welcome everyone to another fantastic episode of the Shit Take. As always, I'm Arrow for the win, and with me is Stella B. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of things, and we just felt like these were again, wanting to strike while the shit pile is warm, and get them as they were coming to us. So today's episode is going to be basically us going over James Bond, the legacy of the character, what that means for the future, and how Hollywood portrays certain things, and then going into our following topic is going to be the Super Mario movie, recently announced by Nintendo by Illumination Productions, and just how we feel like the casting choices were, what it means for video game movies in general, and how they are portrayed through celebrity A-list actors versus those who portray the characters in video games, and sometimes how the lines will blur. Right?
For
Want to
sure.
start us off there?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, I think it was this past week, Daniel Craig said something to the effect of, he wishes there were more roles available for women and people of color, and that's why he wants, James Bond to not be played as a woman. He wants there to be a character written specifically for women that we can go with, and not specifically just making James Bond a woman because it's popular right now. And I couldn't agree more. I know there are definitely flaws in that mindset. Um, One of the big flaws that I personally think of is whenever you look at writers, anyone who's writing something, they're usually writing something um, from their own perspective, because you can't write from somebody else's perspective, not without them, literally coaching you. So if I'm going to write a novel, I'm not going to write something I'm not going to write about growing up black in a predominantly white neighborhood, because I don't know what that's like. I have no idea what that's like. So a lot of times you get into these situations where just look at movies in general right now. The most grossing movies, the movies that generate the most revenue, are action and adventure, by far. Those numbers are by far the highest. And the reason for that is males make up a huge number of the revenue when it comes to new movies. Just, I mean, it's pretty simple. So whenever you're casting somebody for one of those roles, who are you going to cast, or who are you going to write for, right? If the 80%, or not 80, 70 something, I think 73% of the writers in Hollywood, like for in general, are male writers. So you already have them writing from a male perspective. So, whether that's right or wrong in and of itself, whether or not there should be more women writers or less male writers, doesn't matter. Just that's what the numbers are, 73% male writers. You're going to get all these roles written from a male perspective for a male character. Because do you want male writers writing from a female perspective? I don't. I mean, I would imagine that women wouldn't want that. You know what I mean?
No,
Is that fair to say?
no, absolutely is, and that goes to the whole, what are they making the movie for? And you see the movies that are for the female audience, they're making for the female audience, and you'll always see those reviews or like the criticisms against it. It says like, oh, so and so male reviewer, blah blah blah. Well, that wasn't for you. That wasn't your demographic, so they'll ignore that opinion. Basically, it's what they want to say, without actually saying those words. And and you see it too around like award time. Like the action movies, the blockbusters, they might be making a gross revenue. They might be the ones that people are talking about, but those are the ones that are never in the modern day going to win an award.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be those dramatic, laissez-faire art movies. The foreign film that gets that little push. And you'll see a lot of the time it's like or
Yeah.
if it's from France, the woman director, the woman writer, all woman cast, very predominantly story driven by women. And I'm not necessarily saying that those are the movies that more often than not will win an award, but those are the ones that I feel more heavily pushed that way. And
Mhm.
whether you're in film school or just picking up a camera yourself, when you decide what kind of movies you want to make and what kind of message you want to say, then that's usually when you're like, okay, like, am I a woman speaking through my journey, my struggle to project this onto the the film. And again, I can't say that I am because I'm not a woman. Like I can only assume that that's possibly what they're thinking.
Exactly, and that's kind of that's where I feel like the big issues lie is everyone's calling for more roles for women. Everyone's calling for more roles for people of color, which obviously there should be. In a perfect world, we'd have those things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that all of it would be equal. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, your audience is still heavily male. So
Hmm.
if I'm not saying it's fair, it's definitely not fair, but if you're trying to lure somebody into this theater to watch this movie and you're trying to sell to me that Chloe Grace Moretz is going to go out and break, Arnold Schwarzenegger's fucking nose and she's going to fucking tear his fucking arms off and all this kind of stuff. How are you going to sell that? I'm not trying to say that it's fair or anything of the sort, but how are you going to sell that? You have a guy the size of fucking Bautista grabbing
Hmm.
onto any random person's fucking limbs. He looks like somebody who's capable of pulling a person's body in half. You know what I mean? You just don't
Hmm.
see this from the other perspective. And so a lot of times, right, we get into this kind of argument is, do we do it anyways? Well, that's what it feels like. It feels like people are just kind of doing it anyways. And however, fair people feel that might be, I mean, I'm not sure I want to watch that movie. And for the most part, I kind of steer clear from those movies because they always end up being like either a superpower movie or something with
Hmm. Of
guns or whatever, right? Because they have to compensate for the person's physical features. They have to
course.
compensate. So you're never going to see this little tiny girl, destroying muscle heads and it be at a point where it's super believable because it's not.
Right.
But
And I, yeah, no, no, I definitely agree. And see, the thing with the movie is like, you're trying to suspend that disbelief while at the same time making your audience believe that it's happening. Like take
yeah,
that sense of wonderment or whatever. And if, like you said, if it's a superpower movie, then fine. You can be as skinny as a toothpick and throw a mountain over your head. You'd be the buffest guy ever. Is flying through space. Like, but I think ultimately it's the actor's job to portray that without the use of special effects or whatever. And if it doesn't look believable to them through their
yeah,
eyes, like how do they expect us to do it? And see, there was a movie I recently watched on Netflix. It's called, I think, Good Girl, and it was like Jason Momoa dealing with um a fallout of this medical big conglomerate, basically blocking affordable cancer treatment for his wife who ends up dying. So he kind of goes on like this one man crusade uh with help from like his daughter or whatever. And it's a weird movie. Like by the end of it, I was just like, man, like not only was I predicting what was happening as it was happening, but I like almost word for word called what the freaking ending was gonna be. But there's
yeah,
this part in the movie that was just so unbelievable to me, and it was basically like Jason Momoa completely infiltrating like this black tie gala affair, and obviously it's heavily bearded, long hair, wearing a lumberjack jacket. Jason Momoa, black tie gala affair. Everyone's like, oh, nobody saw this guy and like thought to, okay, maybe let's get some identification. Goes after the big bad of the story and basically like accosts his bodyguard and then like starts choking him out. And he probably has like a good 100 pounds on this guy. Jason Momoa was a big guy, and the
yeah,
guy's just like completely like freaking like just pistol whipping him. Like it's ridiculous. Like it did not look to be like a believable fight, and I was just like, man, like in what universe would Jason Momoa not be able to take this guy? Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
yeah,
Talking freaking Drogo from freaking Game of Thrones here. uh so that's just like that, and that's a pretty much like early to mid part of the movie, and it just already left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I was just like what next, man? Like is he
yeah,
gonna have trouble like opening a door next? Like it just didn't pull me into that mindset. And I think that's just more and more of what you're seeing. I guess like they want to call it the unlikely hero effect, and just like, oh, anybody can be a hero. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that you can't. Like I'm not saying that you can't make a movie about whatever you want, like as a director, as a writer, whatever. But like when you cross that line into mainstream audience and you can't make a believable character, that's when you're going to have to welcome that criticism because it's going to be there whether you want it or not. And I think that's a big difference in what you're seeing now with like the whole like theater shutdown and reopening, is that a lot of major Hollywood motion pictures aren't coming to theaters. You're seeing more stuff on like the streaming services, red boxes, the straight to DVD things, and you're seeing a lot more of those not only the artistic like indie films that you normally wouldn't see, but like bigger names in these streaming
Yeah,
services and the movies that you're seeing there. So I think right now is probably the best time for those, different types of movies to make themselves known and kind of capture an audience. But it goes back to what you said about, like whether or not they're going to be making that same level of money versus, the streaming services versus that in theater revenue.
yeah. Hate to say it, but if you didn't know by now, every movie that's ever made, the biggest question on every single one of those movies is going to be, are we going to make money off of it? First and
Absolutely.
foremost, there's not going to be a question that's asked before that question is that's going to be the most important answer that they can give is it going to be that good that we're going to actually make money off of it?
And,
So
and
when
yeah.
it comes to action and adventure movies, right? Like James Bond was written by Ian Fleming. You can imagine the guy sat there, or thinking to himself, what would I like to do in my life? What kind of person would I like to be? You know what I mean? And he probably sat and fantasized about being this badass spy guy who kicks everyone's ass and sleeps with every girl along the way, and that's what we got. That's James Bond, and whether that's right or wrong is a completely different story, but that's who the character was and that's who wrote it. And it's not surprising to me that James Bond was written by a male. It's not surprising to me that those types of characters are usually written by males. It's not surprising to me that 80 something percent of the readers for romance novels are women. It's not surprising to me that the same numbers can be true, if not more, um, of the writers for romance novels. So those things don't surprise me.
But no, you're absolutely correct. And just speaking for Ian Fleming, he was British, he was a writer, and he was a naval intelligence officer. A lot of that inspiration came from himself as a character.
Yeah,
He planned, you know, intelligence operations, the work from the spycraft, like that came from him as a baseline of his freaking uh inspiration for the character. And James Bond was envisioned as a white Scottish know,
yeah.
as a guy, like that's just how it is. I'm sorry, like it'd be the same thing as like saying any other X amount of character, whether they're race or whatever gender, like it that's what the character is. Like I'm sorry if you feel like that's a typecasting decision, but like they wrote that with that in mind. Like if you're basing it off yourself, you're not going to suddenly say like, well, let me write this like as we said from the perspective of a woman, as a perspective as a person of color. Like
Yeah.
that's a change in the character. So
The part that's
um,
the part that's weird for me is all the people who constantly um, are screaming, there should be more roles, there should be all this kind of stuff. Give up a role.
Absolutely. Yeah, like
Stop taking roles.
yeah. For
Write a
one,
goddamn story.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that point because for one, it's usually the people who have never seen these movies, but it's suddenly in the media, like people are talking about it, so then suddenly they want to jump on that. And, if you want a bandwagon, that's fine, but like at least know what you're talking about before you get into that sort of thing. And if you've never seen a James Bond movie, like why do you care? If you're not gonna go see this movie, if you're not gonna go support that movie, like why do you care? Like if you want to just start an argument, then that's fine. That's your prerogative. But don't like
Yeah,
sit on the soapbox like you're trying to actually help something. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you're seeing the same actors like, 5, 10 movies a year, or like oh wow they're really typecast in a similar role constantly. I was like then get those actors to drop something, write those new characters, like something like there's more than one way to get your point across without saying like, oh, let's change this character to that. Like James Bond may be a standard when it comes to the spy genre, but like you can make other spy movies. Like we see it all the time in Mission Impossible, I Spy. There's
Mission
there's other
Impossible is
stuff.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is like
And what was that new movie they put out on Netflix a while back? What's her name? Son of a bitch. They were like the
What's
group
going on?
of people who have like been protectors for so long they're almost immortal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Talking about the one with Charlize
Charlize
Theron
Theron,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it was the something, the old guard, right?
Yeah. The Old Guard, I
The
think.
old
Yeah,
guard, yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
So that was a pretty cool movie. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, there
it can be
definitely.
done. It's just do it. It's not. You don't have to keep taking all these fucking roles and changing them because fairness and equality. That's not fairness and equality. That's basically taking something and warping it, and that's not what we should be doing. What we should be doing is writing more roles for people of color and women. That's it's simply
Yeah.
put. The problem is you need women to write from their own perspective, and women aren't interested in writing action and adventure movies. That's how I personally see it. So I mean, and the other side is the current writers. You want them to either write with a woman's perspective in mind, which I don't think is appropriate. I think it'd be more appropriate for a woman writer or for a woman writer to actually write from a woman's perspective. I don't want to see some weird old white dude trying to make sense of a woman
Right.
fucking action hero. That doesn't make any sense to me. Not at all, because it's not.
The 20 something straight out of college hitting the New York skyline, written by 78-year-old white man. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
and that just seems weird to me in general. So I mean, I think there's a lot of issues with it, but I think in order to bridge that gap, you're going to have to bridge several other gaps first. And if you're Daniel Craig, right? I like it, right? Because it was, this is my last movie. Well, now I agree that people of color and women should have more roles. Well,
Hmm.
you took five fucking Bond movies, I'm sorry. You took five
Hmm.
Bond movies, you didn't believe it then, you could have given one of those up for somebody. You know what I mean? Like, so now that you're on your way out of a James Bond, franchise, now it's okay. And now you have something to say about it. But
Yeah, and like I feel like those rumors of like Idris Elba is like constantly coming like, oh, he should play Bond, and Idris Elba, I think himself is just like, oh, whatever, like if it's offered, it's offered. But like I feel like it's weird, like they'll campaign for an actor that usually has like little to no interest in the role whatsoever.
yeah,
And then like Tenet came out, and Tenet wasn't. It was. I mean, it was kind of like, the spy-esque. I wouldn't say Black James Bond movie, but like there are definitely similarities to like character and like spy slash mystery thriller action.
yeah,
But I think the problem with like trying to like basically change something about that type of genre is you see it a lot like with the Ghostbusters movie where they go like, oh, let's just completely change it all into like a woman-led cast. And see, even maybe if they would have tried to like do a mixed cast, that could have helped bridge the gap. But it being such a financial and like critical disappointment, basically puts the thought in your mind like, well, damn, it was so bad, I don't even want to watch anyone. And then you
but
see
not
like
just
this.
but not just that one. You don't want to watch any of the others too. Like,
Exactly, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So
um,
I mean,
that's where we are with
that's
the anime movies.
right, absolutely live action, uh, adaptations, but specifically with the whole James Bond thing, yeah, like Christina Royale was supposed to be like kind of like a soft reboot of the James Bond movies, younger Bond going through this journey, and you see a lot of like the changing of the guard there with like the Q and M and all that. But even Miss Moneypenny, who she took a bit more less supportive role and more action based with like with Skyfall and all that. But then by the end of the movie, she was just like, oh, that spy life's not for me. I'd rather just I'd be the secretary, and she was fine with that. Like the character was fine with that. So seeing that sort of gung ho attitude with like the trailers for No Time to Die,
Yeah,
it just I don't know, like I feel like they're trying to push certain characters there, and whatever the future of the franchise is, casting a different type of Bond or making a new spin-off franchise, however they want to go.
yeah.
Um, because spin-offs aren't always bad. Like I feel
No,
like that's
Hobbs
a
and
real,
Shaw.
yes, exactly, the perfect example of spin-offs, done right. But you know, you have to let them get off those rails. Like you can't keep that firm mindset. Like, oh, this is Fast and Spin-off. Spin-off. It has to be just like this. Like, no, dude. Like, let the story, basically write itself.
Yeah,
But it's easier said than done. Hollywood, like you said, is always going to be about pushing those numbers of revenue, and even the movies that do make the um the art, the artistic flair, the ones that are like taking home all the big awards. More often than not, they're not making money. Like it's like, oh, I won a best director for this, best actor for that, and then like the movie didn't make, didn't even break $1 million. Like
Yeah.
No Man Land, just recently, I think that the last year's Oscars or this year's Oscars, it took home like best picture, best director, and I think best actress. If I'm yeah, best actress, and like a movie off a $5 million budget made 36 million.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, that's 7 times your budget. That's that's a fantastic feat. But like what else came out that same year? Freaking X Marvel movie probably made like 300, $400 million. And then you'll see that too, like the Marvel Endgame. What is that movie? An action adventure, cinematic
Yeah.
adventure masterpiece, whatever you want to call it.
But
Broke $1 billion
it ain't
easily.
gonna win shit.
It didn't win. It not only that, but it wasn't nominated. And they actually made this big thing, like it was the record for the highest grossing film of all time. Before inflation, whatever you want to say, but wasn't nominated and didn't win a single award. Then you take what was before that was Titanic, which not only made so much money, but also won all these awards. And
Well, Avatar too.
yeah, but that's where things get interesting, because both movies, Avatar and Titanic, were James Cameron pictures. And while James Cameron was nominated for all this stuff in Avatar, uh, he didn't win
Yeah.
best picture, best director. It was his ex-wife who won it for
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker, which again, you compare those two movies and the the revenue between them, and it's apples to oranges.
Yeah, but compare them in quality too, and you're gonna find a movie that is superior in quality. Now, don't get me wrong, Avatar is still, in my opinion, like it's the pinnacle. Like it's the
Yeah,
best CGI's that we've had.
the
Like
technology didn't exist
exactly.
to film that movie until he created the cameras. Like it was
Yes,
insane.
but it's still, even with all that, even with the numbers, it's not as good as Hurt Locker, and the Hurt Locker
Yeah.
is a good movie. It's a fantastic movie because it's relatable, it's
Hmm.
realistic, it's
Yeah.
all these different things. And Avatar's just mindless. It's suspend your
It's not an
belief for a
original
little
idea.
bit. It's not. It's
It's
Pocahontas.
it's yeah, it's Pocahontas is dancing with wolves. It's
Yeah,
freaking Stranger in a Strange Land. It's something that we have seen before. You slap the new code on a plane on it, and I'm not saying that like Hurt Locker was the most original idea.
of course
You
not.
put
Yeah,
yourself in the mindset of a war movie. It's always going to get that sympathy factor. That sense of patriotism is going to at least partially inspire you to watch it. But
yeah,
yeah, like the actors did the job that they needed to. They made it, it captured the heartstrings of the audience,
yeah.
and the Academy reflected upon that, and it won.
And maybe a little bit off topic, but I mean, I think it says a lot because look at the main characters, look at the people who wrote those movies.
Mhm.
Funny enough, right? Hurt Locker was written by his wife,
Yeah,
and it starred Jeremy Renner. But
right.
I think maybe there's something to be said there, right? A woman writer with a male main cast member. Maybe she even understands the dichotomy there.
Well, I mean, yes, I actually agree with that point, but you take that same logic, you apply it to Nomadland, directed by a woman, screenplay by a woman based on a book, The Travels, and then starring Frances McDermott. Like that's a woman-led, woman-created feature, and
Yeah,
like I think it because even the story, it's a woman, husband recently passed, she's on, like the other half of her life, and she just feels like that sense of wanderlust. So she, she starts that whole nomad journey, in the back of a van, this sort of that, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who, man or woman, who could relate to that. But of course, it's going to capture the attention of the, you know, um, that demographic that she's trying to appeal to, and she, she did. Obviously, she won,
yeah,
but in the sense of that, it did open up to her directing now, the upcoming feature of The Eternals, which is a Marvel movie, big action. So the question that I have in my mind is, it going to have like that similar feel of her own directing, flair on the movie? Are we going to see that sense of, like strong woman-led character throughout the film? A little sense of romance, maybe, like, how is the film going to shape? Or is it going to be like, oh, here's an indie director that just wasn't, ready to direct a Marvel movie?
yeah. And don't get me
Because
wrong, I'm not saying it
I'm
can't be
sorry.
done. I'm not saying it can't be done, right? Like you look at some of the best, like think of strong like female lead roles, right? Like
Yeah, Sigourney
Alien.
Weaver, Linda
Yeah,
Hamilton. Yeah,
those
absolutely.
are all those are all written by men, but are
Mhm.
they realistic? That's a whole another argument. But I don't think
Yeah.
they're written from like the perspective of a woman. For sure, they're not.
Mhm.
So that's why those women had to become something that they would be considered, out of their element
Right.
because they're written from that perspective of a man. Don't get me wrong, though; they're awesome characters, absolutely awesome characters, and I think they're some of the. And you even think about it, right? Like Sigourney Weaver's character,
She was a science officer.
it's
Ripley
not
was a science
just
officer.
yeah, but it's not just
She was not
strong
a
for
Marine.
women. It's
Yeah.
strong in overall. Like whenever you're talking about
Yeah.
like the strongest characters of all time, right? Like she's up there. She's one of those
Mhm.
characters, and you know, I mean, Sigourney Weaver's special. I'll say that. So maybe there's something there, maybe not.
I mean, I get it, and it's there's nothing wrong with writing or directing or casting through that lens. Because I mean, if you hit a mainstream widespread impact on audience, hey, my hat's off to you. But whenever you do put that lens on your work, your craft, whatever you want to call it, like you do risk alienating those who'll be like, oh, this movie wasn't for me, blah blah blah. If it wasn't written for you, it wasn't for you, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But it's up to the consumer, I believe, to press that play button on Netflix or whatever streaming service, buy that ticket for the show, because ultimately, when you give them your business, when you give them your dollar, whether or not you liked it doesn't matter as much as that. Back to what you're saying about Hollywood making the money. If you bought the ticket, you bought the ticket. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like what are you gonna do? You watch the movie. The only thing you've lost at that point is your time. So,
The only thing that so I mean, just in summary, right? Like, I did want to mention this, right? Like, I like Idris Elba
mhm,
as like a potential Bond.
yeah,
Um, for the longest time, we've like between me and my brother, we've always talked about Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think that's how you pronounce
mhm.
his last name. From Serenity, the bad guy.
No, no, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, he would. That's
He was
been our
Mordo.
pick for the longest time for for the next James Bond. I think he'd be a perfect role, dude.
But see, like even that character, like he's played such like iconic villains that I feel like he would easily be
Yeah,
a Bond villain. Like, okay, look at Rami Malek, like fresh off of Bohemian Rhapsody, and then cast as a Bond villain, and then you think Ralph Fiennes, who was freaking Voldemort, but now he's playing M. So I think it can go either way, but I feel
yeah,
like whenever you typecast yourself into villains, like you're more than likely put in that villain role.
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, like I may not like Idris Elba's like demeanor when it comes to acting because I feel like he always plays like a certain type of role. Uh, and then like you saw in the Dark Tower, where it was like him opposite McConaughey. I
yeah,
thought they had a really good back and forth as terms as like characters go. I just feel like the characters would have made like I don't know, like okay, the movie didn't do well. Like I'm not gonna like argue against that because those are badass books. I really enjoyed them, but I feel like McConaughey, having that Texas drawl, that Southern sort of you know swagger to himself would have made more sense as the gunman, like in my opinion. And Idris Elba has that sort of villainous. He plays a lot of villain roles too,
yeah.
but I think him as the Man in Black would have been like a fucking fantastic role for himself.
But
He would have brought that same level of sadistic, almost like calculating. Like I always think of his shit in like Charles Minor, man, from The Office.
yeah, just
Like that guy was a fucking prick. Like, and I hated that character so much.
yeah, he can literally just kind of come into James Bond and just play Charles Minor, but a little bit more of like a good guy, and he'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm aware of the effect I have on women. Like like
Yeah,
guy's cocky as shit, but like
but yeah, he'd do fine as Bond.
he's entertaining. Yeah.
Anything else you got left to talk about that one? I honestly, like personally, how I feel about it is when it comes to the writers, if a writer is a male and he's writing for male characters, I don't think there's much to really complain about. If he's trying to get there, if somebody's trying to make this movie right, and they're trying to make it as accurate to the book, or if they're trying to make it to make money, from a money standpoint, I don't think there's really much to complain about. And I think that where most of the complaints should be taken up with is going to be with the writing in general. I think that the writing, the people who, or the writers who are, basically have a death grip on movies and what's being made, that's where room needs to be made. Because as long as we start to change, as long as we can change where the actual information, the story is being written, that's where stories are going to be written for specific people, for women and people of color. Like, I think that makes sense.
Would you feel better if you were in a movie theater or watching something on a streaming service, and before the movie even started, they showed the director and writer like a full picture of them, so you could see their gender, so you could see their like color of their skin,
Hmm.
and be like, well, shit, like now I know what I'm getting into, or now I know what perspective I need to look through.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, because Amazon does that like on a lot of their
Yeah,
stuff.
well, a lot of the
Like you
times
can
they,
have the little pop-ups down there,
yeah.
and you can kind of see everything.
Um,
Because sometimes if I'm watching something animated and I'm like, oh, yeah, that voice kind of sounds familiar, and then you're like, oh, so and so, recognizable, person there. And sometimes you're surprised. You're like, wow, I didn't expect that voice to come out of him.
I don't think I would prefer that. I think I would prefer it to be the way it is. Honestly, like most of that information is already known going into stuff, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. But for
Yeah,
people who don't know, who don't really follow it,
yeah,
and they
going to
come into
blind.
a movie, I wouldn't want people to go into a movie thinking, um, well, I have to experience this any type of way,
Yeah,
because if you don't get it, you don't get it. You know what I mean? Like if you watch a movie, like last night I watched Eraserhead. Have you seen that movie?
I don't think
It's,
so. Wait,
it's
wait, wait, is that the one from from, like the 70s, right?
yeah, it's made by David
Okay,
Lynch,
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
and it
I've never seen
is
it, but I've heard of it.
it's I mean, it's
It's a
really
trip
hard
from what
to
I've heard.
explain, but
Yeah, no,
like
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
if you don't get it, you don't get it. And I didn't get that movie,
mm,
to be completely honest. I mean, I got like
yeah.
bits and pieces, but I mean, I got what I think I understand the movie to be about. But when I looked it up, I'm like, okay, I guess even
That's
David
the
Lynch kind of
message.
says
Yeah.
no one knows. And,
Yeah.
and as
See,
far as you're the director, right? If I can come into a movie, I can make any random movie and make it as wild as possible, and then just kind of sit and let people guess and guess and guess, and then tell them,
mm,
nope, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. That doesn't make me a genius.
no, absolutely
It
not.
doesn't
And
make me a
that's see,
genius. Like it could just mean that I was terrible at communicating my message.
yes,
So
absolutely. There. I want to say something about that, but I'm gonna wait till later on in the line on a
it's
different
okay.
episode because I know it's gonna come up. But yeah, just as a little like tidbit, like I don't like that whole open-ended bullshit. I think that's really dumb. I
Mhm.
think yeah, exactly. Like you're trying to like perceive yourself as something like, oh, if the audience didn't get it, then like, huh, I guess I was speaking too loud or too intelligent for them. I was like, dude, your job as a director was to perceive your message in a way like, don't give me some bullshit open-ended like, well, it's whatever you wanted it to be. Like, no, dude, like what the fuck was, what was Rosebud? Like, don't give me that bullshit. Like if it was a sled, if it was his childlike feelings and say that. I don't need no spinning top and inception BS at the end of it. Like, get out of here.
But
Oh my god.
to your question, I think that I would prefer to be able to watch a movie and not have any kind of preconceived ideas, any kind of notions going into it that I feel like I need to be looking for or anything like that. I want to be able
Right.
to listen and get the message on my own. That's me personally. I don't know if anybody else is going to feel that way.
To me, I don't think that I would want that to be a standard, but I think that as an option, like, oh, if you want to like take this sort of view, like whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna say like it's like taking the IMAX route, like, oh, it's bigger and brighter.
Yeah.
But to me, it would kind of remind me of a similar practice, like not a practice, but just something like when you go to a play and you get a playbill and you can see the caster. I mean, you can see the
Yeah.
cast picture, you can see the director and all that. And I just think it's just it's like a little helpful info, like
Yeah.
just hey, whatever. If you've never heard of Greece, this is what it's about, that sort of thing. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of just how I feel. Is if you're going to address it, you need to address it at the root, and the root is
Yeah.
where these stories are being written. I don't think the root is the casting decisions and who's being picked for these roles. I think the root is who these roles are being written for.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, it just goes back to the whole adaptation. Like when people say like, "Oh, it's a classic. Oh, it's a new spin on a classic." This and that. I was like, dude, if we know the classic, we know the classic. If you want to put a new spin, then make something else, man. Like,
Yeah,
what are you trying to say? Like, obviously people know this for a reason. There's nothing wrong with it. You changing it again doesn't make you a visionary. Like you've done like
Yeah,
85% of the work was already done for you. You know what I mean? Like, come
a
on.
new spin on a classic, like appropriately done, is
Yeah,
like it's like a Muppet, you know, Christmas Carol.
yeah.
That's a new spin on a classic. That's
A
the
Muppets
Muppets.
Treasure Island. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like,
anything the Muppets. We don't say anything about Jim Henson here.
because you can't really you got to be able to get through the source material without ruining it, and you got to be able to deliver it in a way where you're not disrespecting or yeah, disrespecting, I think is the word, disrespecting the original message.
Yeah.
And I think that's appropriate, like a Christmas Carol, the Muppet version,
Mhm.
or I don't know, just, but like there are many where it's wrong, or I feel
Yeah.
like it's wrong, but whatever.
Well, yeah. I feel like that's like a whole video in itself, just talking about that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that legacy is important when it comes to certain things and understanding that, like the whole James Bond thing. Simply put, like we've obviously given examples of other films in the spy genre that if you feel like it's better served this way, like even Salt, with what's her name,
Angelina.
Angelina Jolie, you know, uh she played that role to the best of her ability, I thought. Or even Atomic Blonde, she was like a triple agent spy, and that was Charlize Theron, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, like those are female-led spy thriller action movies. Like it don't act like it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
even if 95% of the genre is through a specific lens, there are certain examples of that. And like there's a reason why these movies become cult classics, because even if it's not at the time of release or award season, they do find their audiences and they grow. Some of my favorite movies have been financial and critical failures, but I still watch them all the
yeah,
time because they're enjoyable to me. Like you got to remember, at the end of the day, it's not the director, the writer, or the actor's responsibility or right to make the movie the way you want to see it. If you like it and you enjoy it, then you spread the word. Let your family, let your friends know. You never know. Like there could be this huge untapped audience that they just never, I've never seen this movie. Wow, how old is this movie? Oh wow, so and so, and this is starring this guy. Then and it grows from there, man. You'll see
yeah,
like film festivals and stuff like there. Every what Halloween, there's always like at least some sort of production or freaking, drive-in, whatever small theater that's going to be showing Rocky Horror. Like that movie is literally like the standard of what a cult classic
yeah.
can mean to people.
Here in town, we have a play that goes every single year.
Yeah,
So
like they're it's up to us as the audience to capture that magic. Like I'll just say that.
yeah,
Like we're the reason that these movies are going to be beloved after they're out of theaters, after award seasons are over. Yes. If anybody has ever had a Nintendo product in their lifetime, then more than likely you know of a famous Italian plumber named Mario. And he
named
is
Chris
a
Pratt.
timeless, yeah, he's a timeless staple to families and kids all around the world. He's more well recognized than most presidents, so we're just gonna say that. But yeah, he is. They are spearheading a. It's too early to say if it's going to be like a Nintendo cinematic universe, but for the life of me, before we get into this casting decision, I want to say right now, I don't think this movie is going to flop, regardless of direction or casting decision. I think that
Not at all.
Mario Mario is too big a franchise to fail, and I say that knowing how badly the live action one failed. This is completely animated. I don't think there'll be any like hybrid CGI. From what I've heard, this is completely animated, and it's by Illumination Productions, which I have utmost confidence in them, man. Like this is the freaking studio less than 15 years old that literally emerged from the hierarchy domination of DreamWorks and
Yeah,
Disney, and has given like both of those a very stern run from their money. Whether or not you like the Despicable Me franchise, it's obviously a proven moneymaker, and even I think what else movie Sing, which is pretty damn
yeah.
good. I
Sing
thought
is good.
Secret Life of Pets, like they
We
You
get
know,
that.
yeah, they may not be, super old, Disney from 1950s, but they've got some hits on their hands there. So I think just from that alone, I am excited for the film, and I think that, I don't think it's gonna fail. But for the topic of discussion, we are gonna be going over the cast today.
Um, I mean, first off, first and foremost, Chris Pratt is Mario. I I don't know if they're taking an Italian route. I don't know if he's going to have an accent. I have no idea if they're going to be honoring any of the voices that have existed beyond or previous to this point. Um, if they are, yeah, maybe Chris Pratt might have been a weird choice. Honestly, my personal problem with the cast itself is that any of them are big name stars. Why not just get the cast from the goddamn video games? I mean,
Yeah,
it's literally just to sell the movie. That's all that it is. You're just trying to sell the movie. You
yeah.
want to attach a bunch of big names. That's pretty simple to understand. But I mean, like if I'm one of these voice actors, right? Like if the guy who originally does Mario's voice is Charles Martinet.
Charles Martinet, yeah.
If I'm him, I would stop doing Mario's voice. Like just today, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like if you're gonna give my role, the role that I've been playing for 25 plus years, to Chris Pratt, then what the fuck am I doing here at Nintendo?
I feel like it always goes back to the whole like voice actor versus live action, or not live action, but like Hollywood movie. Because Mario is not like an incredibly dialogue heavy character, but
Yeah,
he does talk, and there are cutscenes in the games, like that he speaks, like he does have a voice. It's not just like blarbles or like "Meow, meow, meow, meow." Like no, Mario speaks words, and Charles Martinet not only has done Mario's voice, but like Luigi, Waluigi, Wario, like he does a lot of characters there. So it's not
yeah,
necessarily saying like, oh, you're missing out on one character. It's like you're missing out on a lot. And so far revealed, there is no Wario or Waluigi on this cast.
yeah.
I don't know if that'll be a cameo. Maybe that's something he'll do. And I feel like it's kind of like, I wouldn't want to say straight up insulting, but it's just like, oh, don't worry, you'll be doing surprise cameos in this movie.
Fuck
Like,
that.
okay, but I'm not getting that top billing for the character that I've voiced for 30 years. Like
This
that's
is this is like
insane to
literally
me.
my big payday.
Yeah, like if anything, like I don't know how much he makes for Mario. I have no way of knowing that. Like, but if you're telling me that a movie
I'm not
called
saying, and I'm not saying like
Mario,
payday in terms of cash, but like payday in
yeah,
terms of recognition. Like
absolutely,
this is
yeah,
like where I literally get to put on my entire Mario voice. It's where I get to do it all.
yes,
It's
exactly. And friends, family, whatever. Like this is them seeing me. Like, hey, look, honey, look, dad. This is me in a Hollywood motion picture. This is me. I'm Mario. Like, but whenever kids see that, and they're like, oh, what? Like, you're not Mario. Chris Pratt's Mario. Like what?
yeah.
Like, no, I played him in the games. They're like, oh, we're talking about the movie here, the thing that everyone's seen. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like the
I feel like
guy.
it's a bit insulting. Me
I
personally.
agree. Yeah, like I mean, but yeah, no, like Mario is an Italian plumber from New York. So are we expecting like a Brooklyn accent or anything like that in here? Like it's just so it's a
It was a weird choice. I'll be honest, it's a weird choice, but at the end of
yeah,
the day, Charles Martinet isn't Italian either.
yeah.
So, I mean, if you've spent your entire life believing that Mario was voiced by an Italian, perfect Italian voiced person, an actual
It's
Italian,
actually French, which is ironic. Like,
yeah. If you spent your entire life believing that, then I mean, wouldn't you say you're part of the problem?
absolutely. Like, I'm not like, I don't believe that a plumber would be able to do that stuff. Like, that again, it's suspense of disbelief, but it's just
Yeah,
like, Chris Pratt, he, in my opinion, the guy's always been an underdog, even from Parks and Rec. Hit his big break with Guardians, and he's launched himself in superstardom. Nothing against the guy. I love his works. Um, but as a Guardian of the Galaxy, can he now be Guardian of the Mushroom Kingdom? That is the question. Yeah, you like that? I'm here all day, folks.
my problem with it is it's not that it's like white guy or anything like that, because I think like the point I was trying to make a little while ago is like Charles Martinet's not Italian.
Yeah.
He's voiced this character for ever, and he's kind of proved that in this case it didn't matter that he's not Italian. Race
Yeah.
in this case did not matter.
Mm.
Um, a lot like with Phil Lamar doing Samurai
Samurai
Jack.
Jack. Yeah.
Race didn't matter on that one, and it was fucking
No.
awesome.
Exactly. Like I want anybody in the comments below, if you really had a problem with Phil Lamar voicing Samurai Jack, like please sound off. And who would you have cast instead? Like
Yeah, who
I want to know.
exactly?
Who do you
Who are
think?
you gonna
Yeah.
who are you gonna mention?
Yeah.
Who are you gonna mention that it's gonna play that role better? Like, come the
Yeah.
fuck on.
Like really.
But
Like
yeah, do
come on,
it.
man. Yeah, like we want to hear this. Like again, dude, like we always welcome the discussion. We welcome the dialogue. Like if you think that any iconic role would have been better in a certain casting or whatever demographic you want to put on it, like please sound off, man. Like give us
Yeah,
that.
we're big on like fan casting and whatnot. We talk
Yeah,
about it all the time. Like, oh man, who
all
would
the
play
damn
this
time.
character? Who play that character?
Yeah,
Like, we love that shit. But
yeah. The answer is almost never not Zac Efron. By the way,
exactly, it's
Zac Efron plays
like
everything.
95% of
Yeah.
every single fan cast we've ever done. It's not a joke.
No, it's not. This is us being
I'm
serious.
surprised he's not in this one.
Where's Zac Efron? Like, are you saving him? Is he gonna be Waluigi? Like, come on, give us something here. He's gonna be Diddy Kong. Zac Efron as Diddy Kong. Oh, I'd buy that.
Next up, we got
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach.
Yes.
I mean, again, for every single one of these characters, I'm gonna say, well, why not just get the voice actor? But I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with Charlie Day as Luigi.
Every single person on Anna Taylor-Joy is gonna come for us if we didn't love Queen's Gambit, and that movie is like already getting like such controversy of like the person it was based off of trying to sue Netflix. But yeah, like we get it. Like I have nothing negative to say about her. She'll be an awesome Princess Peach. Like I mean, I'll even go as far to say like she won't even portray like a damsel distress type situation. Like she'll probably be kicking ass herself in the movie. Princess Peach, she'll hit you with the what was it, the golf club in Smash Brothers. Yeah, and again, like half the characters here, race shouldn't even matter because they're either freaking anthropomorphic animals or denizens from a completely different dimension, the Mushroom
Yeah.
Kingdom. Luigi Charlie Day, I have no problems with that. The guy's funny. He's a wacky role. I think he'll bring a lot to like Luigi, and not in a backseat role. I think like he won't. I don't think the guy will even be strictly comic relief. Like I think like he'll be a strong supporting character. The Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Put him on that level.
No, I love Charlie Day. I don't think I don't think he's a supporting cast person ever. I think
Yeah.
he's always front and center.
Yeah, I think he'll bring a lot of day to this, man.
Jack Black as Bowser seems pretty good. I mean,
It's funny. Like, tell me something that Jack Black it doesn't make amazing. Like, come on.
yeah. This one, this whole cast, honestly, it feels a lot like a Kung Fu Panda. How it's gonna be that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, boy, I love Kung Fu Panda. It's
Kung Fu Panda's amazing.
Probably my favorite of all of the DreamWorks movies.
DreamWorks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shrek stole my heart, man. But yeah, Kung Fu Panda's up there. Like, dude. Kung Fu Panda. No, I watched it just the other day. Like that movie, like the entirety of that like saga or trilogy or whatever, they're good. Like they're all like.
Oh my god, yeah.
They give you such a sense not just the voice acting or the actual way that they fight, which is all real martial arts, but even the music, like it sets such a fantastic tone. Like,
and there's actual feeling in it too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like that shit tears me up, man. Like that is amazing.
But that's where I'm kind of getting with this. I mean, got Jack Black and Seth Rogen literally working together again.
Yeah, like that's awesome. And you don't get to see much of that.
Keegan-Michael Key is Toad.
Kung Fu Panda. I don't think anybody can really argue against Keegan-Michael Key in anything. Like, if you've seen Mad TV, you've seen Key and Peele, like if you've seen any like freaking movies that he's been into, like the guy's just funny.
Yeah.
And it doesn't especially if you've seen Mad TV or Key and Peele, you know that he has played every role.
You've always been here.
Yes, exactly. Like amazing. Continental Breakfast. Like he's played white roles. He's played the Mexicans. He's played he's put on the freaking cholo headband. He's done like the Indian doctor. Like the guy he's already racially ambiguous as it is.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I don't see any problems with that. I think he's gonna be a funny Toad. Like he's gonna have that voice down. I'm
Yeah,
positive. Yeah, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Like
and Fred Armisen is Cranky.
I think Fred Armisen again, another character actor who can really just put into any sort of role. Have you seen
Yeah,
Portlandia? You've seen any of his stuff on SNL? Like the guys know what he's doing, plain and simple. Have
yeah.
nothing against that. He can play a cranky old gorilla. I think that'll be fine. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, like again, he's good with voice roles. Like I don't want this to make it sound like I don't think he could play Donkey Kong because like who would play Donkey Kong? Like shit. Uh, no,
I mean, Seth
we're not
Rogen, he should be fine, right?
yeah, Donkey Kong isn't like a super serious character either. He's I don't know if Bowser being there means he might be a sub villain because the original Donkey Kong game.
Yeah,
But I with Cranky Kong there, I don't think though. I don't think so. Like give
I
him
think
his
it's gonna be
freaking
Bowser. I mean,
yeah, give him his tie, give him a banana. Maybe there'll be a joke there where he lights up a banana and smokes it. I don't know, but I think it'll be funny because we're looking at a more goofy gorilla. We're not looking at
um,
like Kerchak from Tarzan.
there's
He's not
no way
gonna be like
that happens.
yeah.
Not in Nintendo.
If it does, I said it first. Y'all remember that. Remember
Oh
that.
no.
Remember this video. This movie comes out December 21st of
I'll
next
give you
year.
$1,000 if that
Yes.
happens. Oh man, that would be fucking hysterical.
You heard it
I,
here, folks.
I mean, I feel like the cast is just across the board, just kind of a little bit wacky. I
Yeah.
think it's intended to be. I think they're trying to use star power to get it to sell, and
Oh, absolutely. All the compliments I've given to this cast did not take away from that point at all. Like they are definitely
yeah,
trying to sell this movie as much as they can. They haven't even released what the budget is for it yet. So if anything, they're trying to recoup on that. Like literally saying, okay, like we got to push it. Hey guys, these guys. Yes, you do. They're superheroes. They're funny. You know them from this and that. Like that's as much as it is.
but
Like the one female character we see is Princess Peach, and she's played by arguably one of the biggest names, not even like in superstardom levels, but like somebody that from something so recent as the Queen's Gambit. Like
yeah,
that is striking while the iron is hot in every sense of the word.
for sure. I do think. I also do think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, we have no idea until we start to get more stuff coming out telling us whether or not there's going to be like an actual Italian accent or anything. I'm not
Yeah.
sure they're going to go that route. It would not surprise me if they completely abandon like an accent. I
Yeah,
mean,
and it's not even like I think they could get away with it thing because the whole New Yorker thing they could play in there.
just kind of go
Like you'd be
that
like,
route.
yeah, just say he's from Brooklyn or whatever. He is from New York City, so we know that.
I don't know. Either way, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, how can you not?
Kevin Michael Richardson as comic. He's the evil little wizard guy. So I mean, he'll be there. With Bowser, King Koopa. If Yoshi's in the movie, they have a huge back and forth, so that could be fun.
Yeah,
If Yoshi is in the movie, I don't think it'll be a real big speaking role at all. Probably just like wacky nonsense there. And then rounding out the cast. Oh well, Kevin Michael Richardson's a badass voice actor. He's awesome. Nothing bad to say about that guy. He's another one who plays many different types of roles, very distinctly. And then last on here is Sebastian Maniscalco as Foreman Spike, who is the original boss of Mario and Luigi from the old school game. So that's pretty cool. Um,
yeah.
I know that Mr. Maniscalco is a stand-up comedian. I don't know too much of his stuff, so I mean, I mean, if he's a stand-up comedian, he's got to be funny at least, right? So I'm
Yeah,
sure he'll bring
it's
some
kind of
flavor to that role.
it's kind of funny that he is. Well, he's literally got an Italian last name.
Yeah, right.
It's
But
kind
see,
of
would that have been too much to place them in the role of Mario? Like
yeah.
Is he well known enough for now that's like I think the whole point, they're trying to get that sort of thing.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like the same. Um, I honestly, I think that the reason why people hated the Chris Pratt pick, I mean, I saw a couple different things. Right, one of them was the race itself, that he's not Italian,
Mm,
and to all those people, I say, the guy who's done his voice forever isn't
yeah,
Italian, so fuck off.
exactly. Yeah.
Two, I think another part of it was the fact that his church is like real, or at least they were the church that they were based off of. They were real anti LGBTQ,
Mm,
and I mean, even if he's the most intolerant person in the world when it comes to LGBTQ, that
mm,
is kind of his personal opinion, and I don't know if any way, shape, or form we should be forcing our beliefs on any one person in particular. I'm personally, I'm not a religious person, but I try and maintain a middle or a middle of the road approach when it comes to
yeah.
stuff like that. Um, it doesn't matter if I'm one of the biggest supporters in the world of LGBTQ. I have no right to want to shit on this person and get him removed from a role that he's been hired for just because he doesn't see the same thing as I do. I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's fair. Even if he's the most intolerant person in the world, as long as he's keeping it to himself, then I don't know if I should have any say whether or not he should be able to take that role. So
Yeah, I think any type of negativity towards anything, whatever creed, justice you want to like throw out there, like if you want to like portray that in your own life, like direct all that crap inward, man. Like there's no need to spread any of that sort of hate or
yeah,
uh dis disharmony from anything, outside, and keep that shit to yourself, like I promise you nobody is going to want to invite that into their lives.
yeah,
So, as long as it doesn't reflect within like his performance as his character, like I think that'll be fine. Uh but yeah, man, like just there's so much shit in the fucking world as it is. Like you don't need to bring that crap in there. But yeah,
right.
that about rounds up the cast. And like we mentioned earlier, Charles Martinet will be voicing Mario. Oh, who voices Mario and other characters. He's just gonna have some surprise cameos. So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe hell, for all we know, maybe there's a scene in the movie where like a father and son are playing a Mario game or something, and he just says, "Oh, I used to do a pretty good accent or a pretty good impersonation," and then he just says, "Hey,
I'd be
it's me,
so mad.
Mario." And then like
It's
the
me,
kids like
Mario.
really like, yeah, and the kids just like, "Oh, well, you don't sound like the real Mario, Dad." And then he's just like, "Oh, okay. Like, let me
That's
just go
not
back.
very good, Grandpa.
All right, let me
And
just
he's
go into
like,
my fucking
oh.
cool shed and make another birdhouse." Like, like fuck, kid. Like, damn.
Fuck you, grandson.
Yeah. He's just like, all right, and he just takes the freaking game with him and smashes it with a hammer.
That might be the worst impression I've ever heard.
Right?
I'm gonna kill you. That's how I'd feel though. I'd be pissed off if I was him. Honestly,
and
like
that
that's me.
and
I'd be
that's how I
upset,
won.
but
That's how I won another $1,000 from Stella B.
all right. Next up, we didn't actually originally plan to talk about this week, but they did just release the opening credits for Cowboy Bebop, and
They did.
I'm
Oh, did
personally
they?
not impressed. It's
I
looking it's looking even worse, right? I mean,
Yeah. It really
it
like
looks so bad.
I got so much hate from my roommate for just saying like, oh, I'm judging it too harshly. He called me the most jaded person ever, and I just obviously, well, how else was I supposed to take that, right? But no, like it was crazy. It's just like, dude, like, okay, from them announcing a Cowboy Bebop, live action remake, whatever. I was already like, no, no, thank you. We've seen the live action thing fail, crash and burn numerous times, more than enough time to substantiate my worry.
Yeah,
Then we saw the casting choices. Again, not a fan of any of them. More than enough to substantiate my worry. And then we saw first looks of them in the costumes, not being accurate. Again, more than substantiated my worries. And then here we saw like the live action, basically, trying to create that shot for shot of the remake of the actual anime's opening and failing at that. again, more than substantial. Like, at what point am I okay to say like this is gonna suck? Like, this is just not good. Like, am I not allowed to say that? And I really think that it comes to like the whole like, oh, we have to be accepting and like, enjoying of everything. It's like, no, dude, like if something is bad, we should be able to say it's bad. Like we shouldn't have
Yeah,
to like freaking be force fed drivel and expect it to be like, oh my god, this is a filet mignon, this is fantastic. Like, no, dude,
yeah.
like I'd say like 9.99 out of 10 live action adaptations have failed, and I don't think I'm unjustified in saying that. So this is more than a first look at this point. This is literally you saying like this is the opening credits to this show, and you've already shown so much that it's just bad.
And
Like it's
you've
just
seen that there were like actual shots in the credits that were showing
mhm.
scenes from the show itself. So
Yes, like
you're
we
still
are
getting an
seeing
idea
it.
of what it's going to
Yeah,
look like. And to me personally,
exactly.
I think like the show's colorful. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it's not like Tim Burton colorful. And that's the kind of like impression I get like whenever you like it's like mid credits where you see like the folks with guns walk in with
Yeah.
the suits on. Like honestly, that's the impression I'm getting is like Tim Burton kind of colorful, um, and with the acting itself, like recreating it in the opening credits. Man, it just they look so silly. The run that he did trying to imitate the
Yes.
Spike
Yeah.
Spiegel, and
Yeah.
it's just like, is that what he's gonna look like running? Because Spike runs a whole lot, and if
Yeah.
that's what he's gonna look like running, that
Another
looks
character.
bad.
Like it's like yeah, he does more hand to hand than he does freaking shoot a gun in there. But
Yeah,
one of the craziest things was whenever they show Vicious being flanked by Shin and Lin, and they changed Lin to a woman. And one of the biggest scenes in Cowboy Bebop is Real Folks Blues when Spike is he's taking on the Dragon Syndicate looking for Vicious, and he's shocked because he thinks that he sees Lin.
yeah,
Lin died, earlier in the show. So he's just like, what? He's like, no, Shin was my older brother. And, I wanted to, fulfill his legacy and help you fight him. So these two characters looked almost exactly alike, and I don't see how them changing the character to a woman is going to help that character whatsoever. Like, I'm going to be very well aware. It's just like, I don't think there should be any surprise in Spike's, like, oh, what? How are you not your brother? Like, very obviously, why?
yeah.
So I just thought that was so weird. Like they're literally changing for no reason. Like I don't
Like yeah,
understand the reasoning. Like it's insane.
and that's it. Like we talked about the last time on our very first video. Like if you're gonna make changes, please like at least make changes that make sense. Don't make changes actually that actually alter the source material. And if you're
Hmm.
altering the source material, you need to be really respectful in that sense because you have a lot of people who say what you want, right? Like I know automatically, right? The first thing that people think of is, well, it's not the anime. You still have the anime. Go watch the anime. Well, fuck you,
Yeah.
fuck you. Like I'm. You're not the one. You're not the one that's been sitting here for fucking 20 years waiting for this. You're not the
Yeah.
one that's been wanting to see it for this long. You're not the one that's been hyping it up. Sitting in high school or sitting after work and just chilling out at IHOP, just kind of talking about random shit. And then we're the ones that talk about this shit. We've been talking about this shit for years. So fuck you. Like,
Like defend Dragon Ball Evolution in the comments, please. I fucking welcome that. Like
yeah,
no, dude. Like fucking sucks. And Dragon Ball Z is like one of the fucking highly celebrated anime of all time. Like you would think like Hollywood would be putting like such fucking tender love and care behind it. Then oh, there's no way it could be a failure. It's a Dragon Ball
yeah.
movie. Look at that fucking shit, dude. Like come on, man. Like, yes, absolutely. Anybody who's outraged over this show should fucking feel more than justified for it, man. Like, come on, dude.
And at the end of the day, if it's good, I'm gonna admit it's good. I've been wrong plenty of
Absolutely.
times before, and
Yeah.
and he can personally attest to it that I have admitted where I've been wrong before.
Yeah.
Like,
You can expect a fucking video. The title will either be Cowboy Bebop, We Were Wrong, or Cowboy Bebop, Well, like, fucking,
guaranteed, it's gonna be commented
it
on 100 fucking
yeah.
percent.
Yeah. Either way, either way. Like,
And I'll give it the time. That's one thing that I
yeah.
hate. I hate whenever like I'm trying to suggest somebody to watch something and then they don't watch it because they don't think they're gonna like it. Then they form a negative opinion about it, and then they have this negative opinion about something they've never watched before.
Yeah.
That seems weird to me. Like right now, I have a negative opinion about it, not because of it inherently, but because of the things that we've already received in
Yeah.
regards to anime remakes. But another reason why I have a negative taste in my mouth is because I'm already seeing stills, I'm seeing images, I'm seeing literally the opening sequence, and you see all these inconsistencies. Like his gun itself is not the same gun. That's
Yeah.
it's so Spike. Like it's part of his character. Like
It's an iconic thing. It's an iconic role. I don't
and
think that there's any sort of like, oh, you're just being nitpicky. It's like you're not being nitpicky. That's the fucking character, man. Like
yeah,
Jesus Christ, the guy fights with G can do. If he suddenly started like getting a karate stance and started flip throwing people, you wouldn't think, well, like, oh, well, maybe these action moves are easier for him. Like, no, dude, like it's a character. If you're not gonna be the character, don't be the character.
and also I'm gonna make a point right here, right now. If it's not John Cho doing the action, if they put in a fucking stunt double who looks like John Cho,
You only see the
I'm gonna
back of
be
his head.
fucking furious because why would you not just get the fucking stunt double to play Spike?
Yeah,
Like
and
I don't get it. Like the other two actors are not big names. Like these people are not big
no,
names. The biggest name is
no,
by far John Cho. So you're
yeah,
putting a lot of
absolutely.
weight on this guy's shoulders. And
Yeah,
to me personally, he doesn't look right for the role. He's not the right frame. He's a lot shorter than, or he looks a lot shorter than, Spike in comparison. He's not thin the way Spike was thin. And I know that, like, one of the people, if he had a different face, would have been a perfect body type for Spike, is Adrian Brody. Like Adrian Brody has that body type down. It's just his face is
yeah,
not the right face,
yeah.
clearly. But like,
It's that predominantly lean muscle because Spike is able to fucking do things.
yeah,
Jeet Kune Do is a full body fucking martial art, and the thing that always pisses me off so much because they've been talking about doing a movie or a remake for like we said with 20 years, and the name that always came up for fucking Spike was Keanu Reeves 100% of the goddamn
it's
time.
long and lanky.
It pisses me off because the guy actually fucking fights in real life. Like he actually learned that shit for John Wick. The guy's definitely a more than capable actor to portray this. And everyone's like, "Oh, he's too old now. He's too old now." Like, how old do you think John Cho is? Like, he's freaking like 50. So the age thing is not a fucking excuse whatsoever.
But
And
also,
John Cho himself has been saying in interviews that people have been coming after him for his age, and he's been like, "Oh, well, deflecting, defending, whatever." So
but also, he's only too old because it wasn't fucking okayed before. He's been wanting to
exactly,
do that shit for a long time, and if
like
he'd
blame
been able to
Hollywood.
do it whenever he was in perfect, in his prime shape, he would have been able to
Yeah,
do it fucking perfectly. Now,
exactly.
again, don't get me wrong, right? I don't think Keanu Reeves has the best face for the role. I'm not saying he
Hmm.
does,
Yeah,
but I mean, at least he had the fucking martial arts down, and he'll do his own stunts. And he had
yeah.
that fucking lanky body.
He's Pacific Islander. I mean,
But yeah, I mean, even the gun itself, like his gun is literally it's specifically Spike. It goes into his backstory. The whole
yeah,
reason it goes also into the fact that his last name is Spiegel, the Jewish last name. Like,
yeah.
I mean, those things are minor for sure, but whenever you start killing minor, and
Yeah,
all you're leaving is
back
the
up.
major, which is like the
Yeah,
overarching storyline. You don't have Spike anymore. You might as well just change his fucking name because that's
yeah.
not the same character. And to be completely honest, I don't think John Cho looks anything like Spike in the face, and so
Mm. It's just like, man, I think one of the biggest like swings against this show is just that again, it took so long to realize that it could be produced, it could be made, that you sacrifice a lot of age, and don't get me wrong, makeup and costume and all that shit, it can do wonders to hey, look, I dropped 10 years or whatever.
yeah.
There are plenty of people out there in their 50s that look better than people in their 20s, without plastic surgery. So
And they never showed in the original opening credits. They never showed was it Perot? They never
yeah,
showed all the actors that they were showing in the opening credits here, and I think it's because
they're trying to show
they're literally
everything.
like, "Well, look, we're going to show everything." You know what I mean? Like, where we got it all. Going that route. fucking so silly. And that's the thing that was also really frustrating is like the fucking guy who made it literally came out and said, "We're making changes. We're going to give Julia a whole lot more backstory. We're going to
Yeah.
expand on that." And it's just like, okay, well, why? And then they're making comments like, like just expect changes. Essentially, is what's happening. And then they put
The
out a
only
fucking shot for shot opening credit sequence.
yeah. Like you don't have any fucking leg to stand on. Like whatever point you're trying to portray to the audience is completely lost. Like I don't know what the fuck you're trying to do. It's crazy, and it's just like if you want to make changes for story's sake, whatever. Like just it was 26 episodes the original anime, and I felt like it was concise enough. Like it made sense. Like there was really nothing that was like man, like it ended with the way it ended. Like fuck.
Yeah,
Um. And it doesn't get a pass for me because even the ending with whatever Shinichiro Watanabe said about the whole Spike thing, like like originally there were plans to do a follow up, so that could have been explored there. But as far as like Julia's backstory, I was like, all of that happens within Spike's backstory itself. So I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, give us a whole episode about her just to like fill her?
yeah.
Like, how many episodes are we getting? Are you trying to break this down season by season? Like, what are you doing? Are you gonna try run out the Netflix clock and get yourself six seasons? I mean,
Yeah, one of the things that was bugging me about it was like the whole, we're it's 10 episodes, right? They're making 10 episodes.
I think that's what they said.
Okay, um, 10 episodes, right? Odds are each episode's going to be what, like almost an hour long,
45, yeah, about 45.
45 minutes.
Uh,
Okay, that you're looking at about 450 minutes if that's the case, right?
they're saying 10-hour long episodes. That's what they're saying as
Okay,
of right
so
now.
10 hour long episodes. We're looking about 600 minutes compared to 26 22-minute episodes, which is 572 minutes,
Hmm.
which means that you're basically accounting for 28 minutes that are unaccounted for in the original series that are going to be in the new Netflix series.
Right. Ballparking it.
The comment of, well, we're going to expand and do all this kind of bullshit. You have 28 minutes worth of
Yeah,
expansion.
exactly.
That's not a lot of space.
No, it's
One.
another episode essentially.
And two, you're basically saying that there wasn't enough content in the original for us to match our quota,
Hmm.
when that's a fucking lie. There are 572 minutes worth of content,
Yeah.
and you're trying to fill 600 minutes worth of content. That's pretty fucking close.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what really are you
That's
going to
marginal.
expand on? Is that going to be is that expansion going to be the Julia, or whenever you said we're looking to expand? You know what I mean? Like where's the expansion going to be? Because it doesn't look like there's a lot of room for expansion.
No, you guys decided to do 10 episodes of an hour long each. Like that's not anyone else's fucking fault. And the thing is, like, what are you cutting? Like, are you gonna cut that thing from the fridge episode? Because I mean,
Badass episode, dude.
a badass episode,
The
but
first time I
like,
watched that episode, I was at my aunt's house, and like my aunt had terrible roaches, right? Terrible roaches, and so like in the middle of the night, right? Like we'd hear roaches scratching on the wall, and we'd like, what
she's
the
gonna
fuck?
hear this and she's gonna be pissed off.
No, she passed away. But whatever. Um, but we'd go and pull the couch forward. We'll go pull the couch forward, right? And there's a roach literally like scratching on the wall, trying to scare us, right? So that's
Yeah.
the first time I saw this episode. We were spending the night once, and I watched
It was a
that
sense of
episode.
realism.
It was absolutely frightening, dude. I was already in a house where I absolutely hated spending the night at,
Yeah.
and I remember watching this episode. It was frightening, and I was young, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah. But it's a good episode, though. I mean, the whole show is good, and there's a lot of filler, like
Yeah.
episodes that just don't really contribute to the overarching story, and that's like the only anime where it just doesn't matter. That one in
Yeah.
Space Dandy, but then again, made by the same
Yes, they
kind of
are.
people.
Guy knows fucking space operas, man. Like that's the thing. Like, and and I'm not saying like don't be overly dramatic because at the end of the day, when you hear opera, you hear tragedy, you hear comedy. Yeah, there's gonna be
Yeah,
there's plenty of drama. There's a very solid story behind Cowboy Bebop, and
for sure.
uh, I just I mean, I don't know what they want to do. Like, I feel like honestly at this point, I feel like whatever Julia's story is gonna be, it's either gonna be like something crazy, like that becomes so impactful to the story that she doesn't even die at the end of it, or they make it so utterly dramatic that it's almost like a Sephiroth killing, Aerith sort of stab in front of Cloud's arms sort of thing. And I don't know, man. Like, I
I think it's
this
probably going to be more along the lines of like
like 3 episodes of
expanding on the
backstory.
romance and whatnot, and
Yeah,
that's what I'm afraid of. I don't like that's there was almost absolutely no part in the original storyline. Like there was no real room for true romance. Like
yeah.
and
It
it's
wasn't about that.
it
Yeah,
was represented so little in the original, specifically because of the history and because of
yeah.
the backstory. So I mean,
We already knew that.
yeah,
We already knew. We already knew how they felt for each other. It was fine. Like we don't need to like, oh my god, like here's 10 minutes of them, passionate throws down the stairs into the
yeah.
bedroom, into the shower, cuddling at night, and then when he wakes up, she's gone, but with a rose and a note.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? Like that's kind of why Spike wasn't that way
Yeah,
because the pain he had experienced. So I mean,
exactly.
so whenever you start putting that in again, right? Like it's the minor, the minor, the minor, but all of those fucking minors eventually become the biggest major, which is well, you no longer have the same character.
Yeah,
You've
it's a domino effect.
changed so much that it's unrecognizable. And yes, the show is going to be recognizable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not going to be, but Spike's personality, I'm not getting that. And I know I haven't seen a lot, but I've seen
Hmm.
what they've shown me. And just based
Yeah.
off what they've shown me, I'm basing this opinion currently. So I mean, it could change. It's like I said, if it's good, I'll be the
If
first
it's good,
person
it's
to come
good.
here and say
Yeah.
it.
I'm not saying that it doesn't have the potential to be good, even though I'm like I'm shitting on it so much, but this is the shit take. What do you expect? But it's like, at what point am I allowed to say that it's no longer a first impression? Like I said, it's a domino effect. You're already building on what doesn't look good,
Yeah,
and like, you want to go in there with as much of an open mind as possible, but it's just like, dude, like, I'm
yeah,
sorry, but like, you got voices in the back of your head saying, well, shit, this, and this and that, and for all the people who say, "Oh, you still have the anime," blah blah blah, like then why did you make this?
yeah.
Why
Fuck
did you
those
make
people.
this? Yeah, like it doesn't make sense for you to have that sort of you know social commentary or just that specific viewpoint and then say like, "Oh, it's okay because you still have this." It's just like, then why did they make this if not to try
Yeah,
and like, first and foremost, yeah, of course you're trying to make that target audience, but we're going from earlier. It's like you're trying to pull in those anime fans and say, oh, I remember watching this when I was a lad. Here, Sonny, you'll enjoy this. Like you're obviously trying to pull something there, and that's why you put it on something like Netflix. It's gonna have this huge reach, a potential freaking audience.
yeah.
Get those potential fans. I won't be surprised if they try and like put this on the top 10 that first day it comes out and be like for fans of anime and they're like for fans of Cowboy Bebop. Like, come on, man! Like, you know what you're doing. Like,
Absolutely.
hey,
And again, for any of those people that are their first response is, "But you still have the anime. Just go watch the anime." My response to you is these shows, these remakes, these live adaptations, they were not made for you.
yeah,
They're made for us.
hmm,
They are. They're being made for us. At least that's what they're saying they're being
yeah,
made for. So when I'm being told that I'm getting a product made for me,
hmm,
tailor made for the fans of the series,
yeah,
and it doesn't end up being that way, I feel like I have a legitimate reason to be upset because I'm not receiving that which I've been promised. It
yeah. So
ends
it's like,
up, those things end up turning into for a different audience.
hmm,
And that's not how they're being portrayed. Like they're being portrayed, they're being sold as something for the fans, and that's not how it's ended up how it ends up coming out, because the biggest percentage of people in regards to the movie itself, that biggest percentage is usually people who do not like it.
hmm,
And I'm talking about the fans, right? The fans are the ones
Mhm.
that usually don't like it. The ones who end up liking it are people who have never experienced it before. People who are
Yeah.
coming into it, with an open mind because they don't know the story yet. So those people are the ones that end up liking it, and the people who end up sitting for 20 years waiting for something to come out are the ones that get shit on, despite the fact that we're the ones that they're actually targeting. And it sucks, but that's just the way it is, and it's not surprising anymore for sure. That's why I like
And I
Silent Hill so goddamn much, because Silent Hill didn't fucking, like, even though it wasn't accurate to the storyline, it wasn't a perfect remake. They didn't fucking play around. They still kept the goddamn attitude. They kept
mhm.
like the intrigue, the mystery. They kept all of that, the gore, like all of that
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
They still had. They didn't pretend
They weren't
to have
pretending
it
to be
right.
anything. Yeah, they weren't pretending to be anything but trying to be Silent Hill. I
Just another Silent
absolutely
Hill
agree.
experience.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, whenever you see, God forbid, like an actor do an interview and they're like, "Oh, so what drew you to the character? Were you a fan of the games? Were you a fan of the TV show?" And they're like, "Oh, I never was. I never really did that sort of thing. Just trying my best to bring life to the character." People are gonna put so much scrutiny on that because you're just admitting like you don't know anything going in. You're
Yeah,
completely blind. So you're representing the general audience. However, when you go into that interview and be like, "Oh yeah, I was a real fan of the games growing up, and blah, blah, I was really excited to be playing this character," you're gonna be put under so much more fucking scrutiny because now the fan microscope is under you, and they're saying, "Okay, this guy says he's a fan. Well, let's see him prove it. Let's see
exactly.
him deliver the experience for us, the fans." And I think that's why so many companies and like, uh, you know, fucking production companies, whatever, products, they'll try and like either so hard to sell the by fans for fans, or this one's for the fans. And you're obviously appealing to them because you're trying to tantalize them, bring them into that idea. But whenever you sit there and say, "Oh, this was, I'm a fan, I grew up, I played this, blah blah blah, this is my vision for you guys," they're trying to speak to us. And then when they fail to deliver that, then yeah, people are going to be fucking, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah,
You're doing the classic bait and switch. You said that you were going to promise something that was going to take you back to those moments when you watched or played or did whatever you did with this. And you've essentially lied to the fandom. You
no.
took their money, you took their time, and what were we left with?
One thing
So
I
yeah,
will
like,
say is I was kind of surprised to see the opening credits. Like I know Netflix puts a lot of like trailers out and whatnot, but
mm,
it's one thing building a trailer with specifics in mind to highlight your movie or highlight your show as the best way possible, right? Like,
yeah,
of course, for a trailer, you want to get all the best scenes and you want to get the action so you can show everybody this is what you're getting, But putting out the opening credits, the thing that we're gonna have to watch every single time we start the show,
yeah.
it's a little bit different.
For 10 episodes,
I think the
who
only
knows if
reason
you're
they
gonna?
did that though is because it was shot for shot, or at
Yeah,
least close to shot for shot. But I think it was kind of, well, one, it was cheap, it was poorly done. I
yeah.
think it looked more fan made than anything else. For a company who has a lot of money and could be doing a
That's what I
whole
said.
lot more, it looked really trashy.
Like, that's exactly one of the points I made to my roommate about that, and I was just like, "Dude, like Netflix is a fucking giant. What they put like fucking billions of dollars into their anime industry last year,
Yeah.
and so much more into their original productions, and you're seeing this.
And then the animation
For,
quality dipped.
and for some reason, yeah. First of all, yes, it did, and then I was honestly surprised that they even used that original track from the opening. Because there have been no talk whatsoever about how the music was going to be played or who was going to be involved. So then, like, again, that's another thing, trying to pull in those anime watchers, be like, "Hey, at least
Yeah.
the theme song's the same." But yeah, dude, like, it's just like, man, like, it looks so poorly made. Like, how long have you had to make this movie, and like you're still like just slipping through the gaps? And like, yeah, like you can nitpick, you can come at us, oh, it's tiny things, but it's like I said, it's a domino effect. But how much minor become like so it's a snowballs, like, and that's what happens.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Um,
God.
I mean, if you liked it, let us know if you liked it. I mean, I personally, like, I've gone through tons of comments. I looked at Twitter. I was just trying to see what just the general consensus was, and I think honestly, what I looked at, it kind of seems split down the middle. A lot of people do not like it, and a lot of people think it's going to be okay. If I'm being honest, and I don't want to sound like conspiracy theorist or anything like that, most of the comments that are like expressing like for it seem to have like really general comments, like
Bots.
that's what it seems like. Like people are being like either paid for it or whatever. But the people who
Yeah.
do not like it are like, man, fuck it, fuck this. Spike looks like shit and
Yeah,
all this kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You
And
can tell
again,
the difference between the two.
yeah, like there's the usual general, like, I don't want to say humanity behind a robot, but it's like, you tell when somebody's talking to you. But yeah, dude, like we say every episode, man, like, we welcome the dialogue, sound off down below. If you like it, tell us why. If you don't, tell us why. What do you think could be done better? What do you think is good? The casting choices, like does it look like Cowboy Bebop? Did you like the intro? Like, do you think that's a good homage? Do you think it's just, them trying to like draw you in? Like, we want to know. Want to
Yeah,
hear from you guys.
not just Cowboy Bebop though. I mean
Yeah,
Mario, the James
everything.
Bond,
James
what we were
Bond.
talking about earlier, all of it. If you have any suggestions, just let us know.
Yeah,
Even if it's
sound
like
off, man.
if it's a vacuum cleaner, like I can see you've got like a mop back there, right? Like, what's your favorite
Uh,
brand of mops? We'll check them out. We'll fucking give you a review.
we will
Don't give a
talk about.
shit.
Yeah, like, it's like it's a general freaking discussion at the end of the day, man. Like, the power is yours. Like,
For
tell
sure.
us tell us anything, man. Like, was it, if you still have thoughts on the chicken sandwich wars, man? Like, I just saw a commercial the other day, like, for another one. Like, what do you think makes the best chicken sandwich? We don't like, dude. Like, give us something. Take us on a trip, man.
Yeah. So our next video will be in October.
Mhm.
We're doing our own kind of Halloween celebration. Um, all of our videos in October are going to be in regards to horror. I
Yeah.
think we're thinking about doing the first week is going to be what poor horror movies, or are we going to do the best ones?
Ooh. Poor or horror? Hmm.
Good
Would you
or
guys
good or
rather
poor?
us would you
Either
rather
way,
do a downward slope?
I think whatever. Either way, we're going to
Well,
do
yeah, it's
one of
either
the
gonna be the
weeks.
best or the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the weeks is going to be the best. The other week is going to be the worst. One of our weeks, we're going to go through our top fives,
Yes.
mine and Arrow's personally. And then on the last week, we have a movie that we're going to be reviewing. I don't know if we're going to be doing that one, if we're going to be doing that one like a live review, but
Put
we'll do
it
what we
out.
can. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, I know the movie well enough, but I'm going to watch
Yeah.
it again for sure, and I'll give my takes on it. But
Yeah.
we have 1 week in there that is just completely free. So
Yeah. I think October is gonna be like some really good stuff for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy it.
it's
Or
gonna
if
get
you have any,
spooky.
yeah, we're gonna bring that in a big way. So if you have any, horror movie suggestions that you'd like us to watch, or maybe some of the ones that you enjoy, give us a little, a little taste, and then we'll bring
Yeah,
that, back to you guys in our Spooktober videos.
yeah. Getting ready for October, I usually I'll kind of just put horror movies on in a playlist, and so for like the past month, I've probably watched a good 60, 70 horror movies
Yeah.
on my free time. So just
Yeah, and
if there's anything you want us to watch, just let us know. I mean, I'll watch anything. I'll watch anything. It didn't even have to be horror. I'll watch anything.
yeah, just whatever, like any type of movie review or whatever. If you want us, we can add that in there. Just give us something, like maybe something that you don't even think is like a horror movie, but maybe you watch in October every year. You know what I mean?
You
Something
know,
that maybe blurs the line. Okay. This has been the shit take, and we just want to, thank you again for watching us. Hoping you like, comment, subscribe, spread the word, and we'll see you next time. As always, I'm Arrow for the win.
and I'm Stellaby. Thanks again for watching, and if you like the content, please like and subscribe.